why often do educators, and I'm a teacher, I was a former teacher. So when I talk about teachers, I'm talking because I love teachers and educators and I love education. But why do we wait till things tragic happen when we can proactively see? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I walk into campuses all over and you see kids walking around with their head looking at the ground. They're walking in a droopy type of manner. And I always speak to those kids. Hey, how you doing? Hey, good morning. And they're like,
Yeah.
who you talking? You talking? Yeah, you. How are you doing? And maybe I'm not gonna have a long conversation, but at least to like, I see you. Like, I see you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but how often has that kid been walking around like that at lunchtime by himself and no one says anything, right? Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today, I'm on location here at the marina, right in San Leandro, California. A place to come and see the sun setting. We're walking, we're hanging out. But more than anything, today I get to have a conversation with you about these masks. Today's episode is with Drew Barvir. Drew is an entrepreneur. He's a student working on his MBA at Stanford University. We talk about masks, our masks. We talk about mental health of young people, of adults, of men, of all people. And we hope that today's conversation will inspire you to have a conversation with somebody in your life about the mask that we wear. Drew Barvir, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks, Ashanti. Yeah, really glad to be here.
Well, Drew, what we like to do is have the guests introduce themselves. So tell folks what you want them to know about you. And then after you do that, we're going to jump into these masks.
Yeah, so I guess a bit of background on me. I'm Canadian. I grew up near the Rocky Mountains, so naturally love the outdoors, so hiking, skiing, etc. Also in typical Canadian stereotypes, played hockey growing up, super into music, travel, restaurants, etc. But I guess, a bit more about why I'm here and why I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I mean, I'm super passionate about mental health and youth mental health in particular, and have kind of been touched by that mental health specifically for, since I was a kid. My mom struggled with serious mental illness, and my sister has as well. And, that pushed me into first being a volunteer and then working in the space, and now building a startup focused on proactive identification and support of youth. So really excited to be here and to talk about this topic with you.
Right on. Well, thank you for the work you're doing with youth. And I want folks to know. So the reason you and I met is because, okay, now I got to trust my memory. So this is, okay, I don't know what episode he was on, but one of our former guests introduced us to you. And now I'm stunned. Okay, see, this is embarrassing right now. Okay, I see his face. And it's not coming. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just leave this in because this is as real as it gets when you forget somebody's name, but you can see their face. I see their face in my mind. Yeah. So anyway, we got introduced by one of our former guests, and that's how we like to meet people. Like, so people hear about us, they know what we're doing, they introduce us to other people in the work, and ultimately, I think part of this conversation is about like making sure that we make space, we make these conversations more normalized, right? And when we make them more normalized, I think it makes it easier for people not to have to hope that people will see that something's up with them, that they will ask and they will be comfortable telling. And when they do that, they get to build those deeper connections. Also, Drew, so you have your mask ready?
I've got my mask ready right here.
And I got mine. So the guest gets to decide who goes first. So the question is, who do you want to go first? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'm happy to go first. Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So just do the front. We'll do the front first, and then we'll do the back afterwards.
All right, let's do it. So I'll hold it up here. So the first one I've got on here is outgoing and social. So, love to participate in different events, see friends, be adventurous, etc. Second one is hardworking. So, I think when I get my mind to something, just love to dig in, do whatever it takes to get it done and get it done as well as I can. Third is optimistic. I think I'm an eternal optimist. Always believe the best in people, the best in myself, the best in any situation, which I think is generally positive, but sometimes can lead to some cons or sticky situations. And then the last one I have is generous. I think just love to try to give my time and my energy to help people succeed.
Yeah, nice, nice. All right. Well, I resonate with your mask, and thank you for that. That hardworking is one that I used to write all the time. Like that's one that I usually always write, but I didn't write it today, so it's actually interesting. But it's connected to one of the ones I did write. So this is what I drew. I have no idea what I was doing, but that's something that I put together. And I wrote funny, caring, and intelligent. And I think that what I wrote from the intelligent is from the hardworking. I think maybe I don't know if yeah, I see. I'm even trying to like resist even talking about it, right? Like I've never written intelligent on the front of my mask ever, and I've made hundreds of masks, and I don't know why. Like I think as in high school, definitely smart wasn't cool in my community, school I went to. But as since I've went to college and been in the world, like I like showing people that I'm smart, that I'm intelligent. And I don't know why I've never written it. It's only recently that I've started writing it, and I think that yeah, it's like one of those kind of bragging things that has been ingrained in my old memories and my old recordings about you can't be bragging, don't be bragging, don't think you're special, right? But I actually it's something that I do want people to see. Funny and caring are two also, I care a lot about people. I think I was raised as the oldest of three, of a total of four eventually, but of three. And I was the caretaker at home, helping help me take care of my siblings. So I was trained to be a nurturer in a lot of ways, but I think deep down it felt like right, but that's not really respected in school and outside of the house, being a nurturer, being a person who really cares about people and helps people when they fall or that's not really seen as definitely not manly in my community and definitely growing up. So I had to turn all those things off. So couldn't be too smart, couldn't think you're too smart, couldn't think you were too caring and too kind and too loving and too friendly.
Yeah.
But funny was okay, and funny was okay. So those are some things that I'm constantly rechecking. Like how do I want to be? Forget what I think other people expected me to be, or what things I think people are going to say. How do I want to be? So that's the front of my mask.
Nice. Oh, that's great. And I mean, exciting that you've come on this journey where you can be excited about putting forward things that you truly care about yourself, as opposed to what you think other people are looking for.
And now that I don't, it still pops up once from time to time, right? But I think to be more mindful of, oh, who am I being right now, right?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
am I being? I read, there's a book by a woman named Maria Franco, Dr. Maria Franco, and it talks about it's called Platonic, about the art of creating friendships, right? And this idea that like she recommends that people when you go to a event, a function, that you need to almost imagine and that everybody really wants to be your friend, that people actually do like you. And when
Mhm.
I first heard that, I was like, "What? That's right." Because I've been in many places where I'm like, "Man, no one's saying anything to me." And she says there's a science around the idea of like your body language and your demeanor when you think people like you compared to when you think people don't or don't want to be around you. Whatever that's happening in your body language and your energy when you walk into a place believing that everybody wants to be my friend, which for some people could sound like cocky or arrogant, it's actually the energy that you give off that people that you bring people closer to you as opposed to some kind of energy where people feel like they're pushed away. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's the front.
Yeah. What you just said really resonates with me. It actually relates a bit to the back of mine, which we can go there now if that
Mm,
at the right next step.
yeah.
Yeah, so for me, on the back, I guess the first thing I had is introverted and shy. I'll go through them first, and then I'll talk about them. The second one was social self doubt. The third is some baggage, family baggage that I have, and the last one is caring as well. So what you mentioned before, does yeah, it does really touch me as well. But I think to the previous point you were mentioning is, and this is kind of a juxtaposition to what I had on the front, which is I'm often perceived as very social and outgoing because a lot of my friends are very extroverted. I like to spend time with people who are louder, like to talk, conversational, etc. But myself, like I need my alone time to get energy. I'm generally more shy and reserved, and I think I've naturally gravitated towards more extroverted people because they take up space and it just makes me feel more comfortable. And a lot of the time I do have what you were saying before, which is that social self doubt of, do people want to talk to me? Do they want to get to know me? Sometimes you get in your own head and you're psychoanalyzing things. And I've actually tried to work on a lot of what you were just saying, which is, try to come at things with the opposite mindset. And I think there is a lot of truth in that, if you have kind of that quiet confidence or self-belief that, you do give off a different energy, you're not thinking about your interactions with people, you're just being you. And I think what I've found and what a lot of people I've talked to is, when you are your authentic self, you feel a lot better and you don't worry about, who's your friend, how they're judging you. You just kind of gravitate to those people that you do care about most deeply, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely an evolution for me. I think even just naming those things, probably would have been tougher for me a couple years ago, but something that I'm actively trying to work on. And I think, naming stuff helps you improve and helps you feel more comfortable with it. So yeah, those are definitely two ones that are linked to what you were saying, but are and are pretty important to me, and things that I think about a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You know, when you said those things, there's a lot of connection here on the back too. So let me show you the back, and then I'll talk about it. And the self doubt one, I wonder if it's not only just in general, but definitely social ones, social environments for sure. I think I've found myself like having to, what's happening here? How did I get here? Why am I supposed to be here? Do I really? I should probably leave early, right? Like, just all all the things in my mind. And so I'm gonna like show these. So fear, and there's lots of fears. So I could probably list 5 things about what type of fear: fear of failure, fear of success, fear of messing up, fear of being judged. There's a lot of the fears in there, but fear is one. Self doubt is definitely one where comes up a lot. And I wrote excited and worried together, which is actually pretty interesting. And the reason I wrote it is because, like, I'm excited about some really cool things that are happening for us in this movement, as a nonprofit and trying to raise money. And we've been at it for a lot of years, right? Sometimes I feel excited about. I'm very excited about the work we get to do, but sometimes I feel worried, like, how do I explain and clearly to people why that after 19 years we're barely finally making moves, right? Like, I think I've been trying to make moves for for 19 years, but I think things feel like they've been slow growing, right? Like one of those bamboo trees that takes how many ever years to finally start, and then wow, things are starting, and then I'm like trying not to get too excited about things that are happening because I don't want to mess it up, right? I don't want to be like, don't get too excited. You'll take your foot off the gas, then you take the foot off the gas and everything falls apart, as opposed to thinking of it like Jim Collins talks about the flywheel, that once you get things moving, then it's going to keep moving.
Mm,
And I worry more about it being like an accelerator as opposed to like a flywheel, right? And I think that's the excitement. The excitement is that there's a lot of momentum on our side right now from a lot of years of work. Like, I've been planting seeds for a lot of years, right? And finally some doors are opening, and instead of me being able to really be excited about it, sometimes I'm more worried about it. I'm more worried about, okay, can't let up, can't let up. And that doesn't help a lot. Doesn't help. I mean,
yeah.
it helps in some ways because it means we will continue working hard, but also I think I need to make sure I'm making room for the team to celebrate, right? To celebrate the wins, right? How long do you celebrate a win? Okay, the phone call's over now. They told us we won. Now it's time to get moving to the next thing, right? As opposed to like, why do I get so like worried? And so those are the things that are connected, the excited and worried. Yeah, it's interesting. I've only the first time I ever wrote this on the back too. So actually, I wrote worried before, but I've never wrote excited and worried.
Mm,
So yeah, they do connect together deeply. So I'd rather just not talk about much. Like, I'd rather not, like, if we get a grant, I'd rather not share it with the world because I'm like, I make up a narrative in my head. I can make up good stories. I'm a good storyteller.
mm,
So I could be like, oh, people gonna think you're bragging. Oh, you can't be out here bragging, right? If you tell people you got this grant, they're not gonna want to. Other people are not gonna give you a grant. So I tell myself, just don't talk about it. But ultimately, you do want to talk about it. You want to share the good news of people who are supporting you, And so those are the things that are happening right now behind the scenes. So
Yeah, no, I feel that too with the I think excitement and worried almost, for people, and I guess both of us who, are focused on trying to make an impact, the excitement creates worry because, you're getting one step closer, and, suddenly the stakes are getting higher, and that's exciting, but you're also worried about, continuing to make that impact. And so, yeah, I think it's healthy to have those, as long as you're, naming it and able to, I think, work on it, think through it. It's natural for those things to exist, I think, at least.
one of the things that you're working with this startup that you're building, and you're really helping youth in these really innovative ways, and helping. We do a lot of work with teachers and parents, and I don't know exactly how your company works, but how did besides your own personal story, but how did it, like, something else that came to you that was like how to support youth in this time in this day and time where they are stuck in their devices, sometimes for positive reasons, sometimes for escape reasons or whatever. But was there something connected to that? How you decided to try and tackle the problem? Because there's a lot of challenges out there with youth and mental wellness.
Yeah, no, and you're right. There's a lot. I think, yeah. I mean, I think for me, yeah, personal connection to this, to kind of adolescent mental health for sure. But I think, the next step underneath that is, as we started to dig into it, I mean, you see some pretty shocking stats out there in terms of, I think it's like 75% of mental illnesses develop prior to age 24. And just some of the impact that the pandemic was having on youth and students, and their ability to show up to school and learn and be social, and everything along those lines. And pretty early on, we were having some conversations with kids who are just like, we are stuck in our devices, and if we could delete, TikTok or Instagram, we would, but we just can't. It's, for social reasons, for, frankly, like some addiction based reasons, attracted to the high of it, etc. um, and so it was almost like this realization at a high level that people just, they wanted to help themselves. Kids wanted to help each other, parents and teachers wanted to help their kids, but there was just like this no real way to do that well. And so, for us, it was just like, well, can we empower these people to create a movement and give them the tools to be able to, support each other, and support others in the community. And so that's really what it was for me, was just, some of these direct conversations and hearing about, unfortunately, some of the tragedies that have happened in schools over the past, frankly, it's been going on forever, but I think, unfortunately, been accelerating more recently. And so, when you hear the stories from parents and students, it's,
Yeah.
it is really motivating to try to do something.
Tell me about when things started with your company.
I mean, I actually, winding back, I mean, part of the reason to come to grad school for me was to spend, a couple years trying to build in the adolescent mental health space, which is something I'm super passionate about. And started out originally, me and my co-founder just kind of trying to do research. So talking to schools and kids and parents and administrators and therapists, and just, needs finding, and then applied to a class at Stanford out of that to, put a little bit more structure around evaluating some of the problems that different stakeholders were facing, and trying to solve kind of what we're focused on, which is the pain point of youth and the people around them just not having the time, training, or insights into the physical or digital lives of youth to know when they need help, and then know where to get that help from. And so, yeah, it started with that, and then, spent last summer working on it a bit more, and really started to get excited about the opportunity to use, some novel technology to do what I was just saying, which is help to identify and support youth who are struggling with mental health challenges. And yeah, now, about to launch some pilots with some schools and with youth directly, and the hope is to, continue to expand that over time, after graduating in June.
Yeah, like last year, Stanford, I was reaching out to some folks because I think that there was some tragic situations happening on that campus, and I was like, well, we we want to like bring the movement there, and we've been like really kind of working behind the scenes. I'm not in a fellowship there right now, but I do have a few people who I know there, and really trying to like support people to be more proactive, right? I think what happens on a lot of the campuses, and definitely not, and Stanford's not just the only one, but I'm naming it just because, it's right. It's a school I do have a little connection with, but also like, down the street, Santa Clara University, they had their own hotbed of situations last year. And I felt like oftentimes, you know, when we reach out to try and like connect with them around these things, sometimes it's only like there's not a lot of proactive things happening that you can notice or that you can see or that are easily found, right? There may be a poster on a wall somewhere in some dorm, right? But there's a thousand other papers there about a party and this thing and that thing and a social hour and whatever. And so maybe the you looking for help is like underneath the three things that are covering it halfway up, and it's like there's no way to know, right? And I think oftentimes those things are left to be like, oh, you got to go seek it out if you want it, right? As opposed to like, we have a place on this campus that is for you when you need it. And not only talking about for colleges, but I'm talking about for even secondary, even middle school, high school. Like, why often do educators, and I'm a teacher, I was a former teacher. So when I talk about teachers, I'm talking because I love teachers and educators and I love education. But why do we wait till things tragic happen when we can proactively see, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I walk into campuses all over and you see kids walking around with their head looking at the ground. They're walking in a droopy type of manner. And I always speak to those kids. Hey, how you doing? Hey, good morning. And they're like,
Yeah.
who you talking? You talking? Yeah, you. How are you doing? And maybe I'm not gonna have a long conversation, but at least to like, I see you. Like, I see you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but how often is that kid been walking around like that at lunchtime by himself and no one says anything, right? Like, just man. So I just think that how do we make visible the things that have often been rendered invisible, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really tough because, you think about schools in particular, secondary schools, middle schools, the job of the teacher now, I think, has gotten so wide. And, a lot of these teachers and counselors, they do want to help, but they're, burnt out themselves because, their classes are getting bigger, their responsibilities are getting broader. And it just becomes, it becomes so tough. And then, you put in front of them this topic of mental health, which was so, and well-being, which was so, I think, stigmatized historically and still is to a large extent, although I think, there's been some progress there. But even it's just, how do you have that conversation? Sometimes it is as simple as, how are you doing? What's going on, type thing. But people just feel like sometimes there's just such a bar to, seeing someone and having that conversation. And I think it's just about creating those habits and then giving people the confidence to do it, I think, is the number one thing. And then, there's obviously a whole other host of things in terms of, education and, understanding yourself and having self-awareness, knowing when to ask for help and where to find it and everything along those lines. But, coming back to your point, I think, even what you described as leading by example there, I think is, an amazing first step that lots of people could do that would make a big difference, as opposed to that I don't know what to say, so I'm going to ignore it attitude, which I think is one that's just frankly unhealthy.
As we talk about these masks, you and I just shared our masks publicly. We're not asking people to do that. Like, we're asking people anonymously to go. They can go to the website. And for all you that are listening, you can, Drew and I made our mask and we shared them publicly, but you can do yours anonymously, right? So at millionmasks.org, we created this tool so that people could go in, make their mask, and recognize, hopefully, with just 6 words, one picture in 6 words. Oh, wait a minute, there is more going on to me than people can see. And maybe if they're even more inspired, they can like recognize as, wow, there are other people in my own community who are going through the same stuff. Maybe I'll talk to a friend who I care about. They could do the same. Like, what are the best ways that people can connect with you? For those, if there's parents here, if there's coaches, teachers, administrators, maybe tell them how they can learn more about what's coming up or what's coming soon or what's next.
I talk about this two ways. One, I always love just connecting with people passionate about, mental health and well-being. So, anyone who's interested in those topics would love to chat. Also, as we talked about up front, we're just about to launch our product, which is the platform to proactively identify and support youth mental health. And so I'd love to chat about that as well if people are interested. You can get in touch with me over email, which is Drew, DREW, at getsonar.org. Or we have a website which you can visit, which is www.sonarmentalhealth.com. That's Sonar, like SONAR. Yeah, or reach out to me on LinkedIn, Drew Barvir, as well. Really, really easy. We'll respond in all those platforms.
We'll put all of that in the show notes so people can find you. And I'm really excited about your upcoming launch. And keep us posted on how we can share with folks, a recap, or just be sure to let us know and let us figure out how we can make it more accessible, easier for people to not be doing it by themselves. That's our hope. And so I really appreciate you for being a part of the podcast. I hope these masks that we shared inspire somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and to recognize that I'm not alone, that there's more to me than people can see by looking at me. And there's more to you than I could tell by looking at you. And that's the goal for this work. And so thank you for helping bring awareness to it.
Thank you as well. I think this is incredible work, and I'm sure has made an impact on so many people already. I think just talking about these things and even reflecting on them, I think, is incredibly valuable for all of us. So yeah, thank you, Ashanti, for the amazing work you're doing as well.
Yeah, well, by this summer, we're going to have our first big cohort of Social Emotional Leadership Academy. So we look forward to sometimes getting you in to talk to the young men, and maybe by that time you'll be in a blast off mode. So however we can connect with you again, we look forward to that.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
All right, Drew. Well, folks, thank you for being a part of the Taking Off the Mask podcast. Drew and I, we shared our masks publicly, but you can do yours anonymously at millionmask.org. We'll have notes in how you can reach out to Drew in our show notes here. And thanks for being a part of the journey with us. Tell somebody about this conversation. If you know a young person who needs something support, there's a resource coming for you. So stay tuned for what Drew is bringing out to the world. And we look forward to the next steps of this conversation. Bye now. Take care, folks. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Graphics are by Kelly Wong. And the special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Choque Alan Alvarez. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast as we cross the 100th episode and begin the next 100. We hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask family, and we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe, write us a 5-star review, and share, as we look forward to continuing to have conversations that matter. Stay tuned for the relaunch of the Million Mask Movement on 11/11/22. You can find out more by visiting everforwardclub.org and following us on social media. Take care. We'll see you soon. And we look forward to you being a part of the Million Mask Movement.